Paul, is that kind of, is this what you've expected from Greg when you found out he was going to come back this year? That this, what he's done this season, is that what you expected from him?
Teddy, he got really hot at the end of last year, and he ended up with 11 home runs. And I think I probably had a half a dozen or 7 of those in the last few weeks of the season, as I recall. And he was locked in, and he could have gone out. I mean, he was ready for pro ball if he wanted to do it. And I sat down with him and we talked, and it was amazing how mature he was. I wasn't trying to talk him into coming back. He said to me, Coach, I feel like if I come back one more year, that it's really good, because this is my first year that he's really, his second year, because he was hurt his first year, he had a broken foot. So last year was really the first year he played regularly. And he wanted to have that second year in college where he got to play every day. And you just watching him grow as a player, obviously hitting a lot of home runs, but you see the way he plays right field. He's turned himself into an excellent outfielder. He's found a home where he's going to be able to play in pro ball. He worked and worked and worked to make him really himself good out there. I don't know how many outfield assists he has, 7 or 8, 9 maybe, okay? He runs the bases great, and now as a hitter, I mean, he's not afraid to take his walks. He doesn't strike out nearly as much as he once did, and he hits some awe-inspiring balls. I mean, I remember when he was at like 5 or 6 home runs to start the season. Every one of his home runs had some quality about them that just made you say, wow. He hit one over the Intimidator. He hit like 3 against the wind. He hit one opposite field that went over the bleacher. I mean, it was like, man, I haven't seen anybody do some of these things that he's doing. We all kind of predicted that he'd hit 20 home runs, and I think he's on the verge of doing that now. So he's just turned himself into an unbelievable prospect, I think, and I think he's going to have a good chance to make it to the big leagues.
Paul, I referenced that same kind of critique that Kramer gave himself a few weeks ago, but how important is he to this team? It seems like when he's going, I don't want to oversimplify it, but when he's going, this team is going offensively.
You know, everybody has to do their job for you to have a good team. O'Shea or Lang or Walker have to pitch well. The bullpen's got to do their job. Everybody's got to do their job. Every year there's that one player that when he's on, you just feel like the whole team goes. You know, Alex Bregman had that kind of impact on our program. Before that, DJ LeMahieu had that kind of impact on our program. Kramer has that same kind of impact. And much like Bregman's sophomore year, when Bregman went into a hitting slump, he still played terrific defense. He still hustled like crazy. He still was a leader of the team. Kramer was that same way. Even when he went through his offensive struggles this year, he still played outstanding defense. He still brought a lot of leadership to the team. But when he's hitting as well as doing those other things, it just makes us that much better of a team. And nobody was more disappointed than he in himself for most of the season because he wasn't playing up to the standard that he had set for himself last year. And man, just before that Alabama series, after we got beat by Tulane that Tuesday night over in New Orleans, it was like he just kind of slapped himself and said, let's go, it's time to get with it. And he's been playing lights out ever since then. And I'm excited about it because I think it just impacts our team in a huge way.
Paul, straight back. Greg used the word comfortable. You made me think of the lineup. You really had to mess with the lineup a lot. You know, stuck in there with Jordan and Coons. You know, do you feel like that's maybe paying off?
I'm pretty famous for tweaking a lot. You know, because I always think we can do better. But I think we've made all the moves that we needed to make. And now it's time to just let the guys know that I'm confident that in them. This is the best thing that we've got for our team. And I just got to kind of put the blinders on when somebody has a rough at bat or a rough game. And just say, you know what, they're going to come back to it. They're going to come back and do it. Like even last night, Coons looked real bad his first 2 at bats. And then he came up his 3rd time, he got a ground ball single up the middle to drive in a run. Bose had some bad at bats, but today I think he got a couple of hits if I'm not mistaken. He had a big home run for us against Mississippi State on the final day. He hit a home run against Florida for us in the 8th inning to tie the game when we hit 3 home runs in the 8th inning. So, with every kid, you got to take the good and the bad. And just sometimes it comes down to a gut feeling on who do you really believe in. Who do you believe that if they fail, that you can go to sleep at night knowing that you went with the guy that was really competing his heart out. And I think we've settled on the lineup. It's It's not perfect, but I think it's the best that we have right now, and I think they're playing really confidently. So I'm going to try to stay out of their way.
Paul, your postseason position is pretty much established, we would assume.
I'm
So,
glad you said that.
yeah,
Mike.
we would
Would you
assume.
please talk to the committee for me?
But there are a lot of teams here that are not. You've been in that position before where you had to wait to see if you were going to continue your season. One, what's that like? And then two, could you comment on your evaluation of some of the bubble teams that you
Yeah, sure, I'll be happy to, because I talked to Chad last night, and I talked to him again when we were over at Hoover High School while the two teams were taking batting practice. And I told him, I said, Chad, I'm not envious of your position. I've been in it more times than I can remember to count. And you're thinking about, all these other conference tournaments around the country, and when teams are upset, the upset happens, and now they eat up an extra at-large bid. And I've been with the notepad and, figuring out what would happen. It's an awful feeling to be in, okay? But let me say this. Personally, I believe that South Carolina has an excellent team. I mean, they had a terrible injury that happened to them when they lost Schmidt. And it's, it happened late in the year, but it impacted probably the last 4 weeks of their season, okay? And if they'd have won 2 or 3 of those games, then we wouldn't even be having this discussion. I'm a little, not irritated, that's not the right word. People have a job to do to report the facts, okay? But I'm a little disappointed every time I hear that they lost 8 consecutive series. To win 1 game in Gainesville, or to win 1 game in Baton Rouge when you're on the road, this league is so difficult. We won 1 game in Lexington. We won 1 game in Gainesville. And I was happy we got 1 win in those places. They're tough places. It's a lot easier to get swept in this league than it is to sweep a series, believe me. And South Carolina never got swept the whole year. And they've played the best teams in the country. And personally, I think they came here, they've won 3 games. I think they deserve it. I really do. I'd ask teams around the country, how many of you would like to have South Carolina in your regional? I bet you not too many people would raise their hand, knowing that you're going to be facing Crow and Hill and Tyler Johnson coming out of the bullpen and Reagan coming out of the bullpen and have to get Cortez out. Personally, I think they deserve it. They play in the toughest league, top to bottom in the country. And I know it's a bubble team, but I don't know. I think they've overcome a lot of obstacles, and I think they deserve it. I feel the same way about Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss is kind of on the bubble the same way. We played those guys. We were inches away from losing 2 out of 3 to them. We split the first 2 games. The third game, they had the tying run at third. Their batter hit a line drive, and Cole Freeman leapt into right field and caught it in the web of his glove at the very end of the glove. Otherwise, they tie the game and perhaps take the lead. This is how balanced the Southeastern Conference is from top to bottom. It's hardly a discernible difference in the teams. I know they can't take everybody, but again, I know when we were left out in 2011, I bet you there weren't many teams in the country that would have liked to have us in that regional that year. And I think if you're trying to get the 64 best teams, and those 2 teams, I believe, deserve it. It's my opinion. You asked for it, I gave it to you.
Well, can I ask a question?
Okay.
All right. When you start off the game the way you did today with
Vintage Boucher.
Kramer, just crushing that ball, and what does that do for the team and kind of to get things rolling?
I think that's the first time this year we might have led off with a home run. No, we have not. Did we have another game where we did? Oh, okay, yeah, then we didn't. I didn't think I remembered one. We up until these last few weeks, I think Alabama was the first game where I really felt we came out in the first inning and made something happen. In that first inning against Dylan Duarte, we scored, I think, 3 or 4 runs. And listen, you can't say it's critical to score first, because what if you don't score first? The game's not over. You have to rally to win games sometimes. But why it is important to sometimes get off to a good start is there's no secret of what style of baseball that I like our team to play offensively. I like to put pressure on the other team. We like to hit steal bases, be aggressive on the bases, going first, third, and those type of things. When you're losing by 3 or 4 runs, even if it's early in the game, you hate to give away outs. You hate to run into outs, or you hate to take a bat out of a kid's hand and make an out when you only have 27 precious outs. When you're ahead in the game, you can take some gambles, and then sometimes it allows you to extend your lead. And it gives the guys a mentality of playing loose and aggressive and that type of thing. So I've been really happy that starting with that Alabama series, we started to score more in the first inning. So today, listen, there's no secret that South Carolina was in their 5th game. That was the situation that they were in. They had to play on Tuesday, and then they lost one of their next 2 games, so they had to play on Friday. So they're playing their 5th game while we're playing our 3rd. And who's got the pitching, that depth, that kind of depth to be able to keep running quality arms out there? We needed to take advantage of that situation. And so, we talked to them over at Hoover High in preparation for the game. In fact, we talked about it yesterday. Let's start strong, let's start fast, and we just might take the spirit out of them, knowing that they don't have the arms to compete for 9 innings. And I think